Hey there, welcome to the Saturday, February 14th edition of Coffee Solo. We're recording this at 9:47 p.m. Pacific Standard Time here in Greater Vegas. That makes the episode 2026-02-1401, or if you're a purist, 2026-02-1401. A reminder for those new to this program, that is a rather common format for dates where you're serializing something. So the 0101 at the end there is for the unusual circumstance, for my case, where you have more than one episode in a single day. So rather than noting the time and making a much longer series of digits. And this is also used for DNS record serialization. For example, when you update a DNS record, you update the serial number, which is usually 4 digits of year, 2 digits of month, 2 digits of date of month, and then an incrementing, that you get 99 tries. That usually doesn't start at 0, usually starts at 1. Okay, that's that. The title of today's episode and one of the first topic, Bilt sucks even more. Nothing tragic has happened. If you did not listen to my previous episode, Bilt sucks a lot. Bilt Rewards is a company that we pay our rent through where I live. Nobody asked. They just said, yeah, we're using Bilt. So hopefully that will change. Pardon me. Coffee Solo is intended to be a no agenda, not related to that program, although I used to be a no agenda fan. There's no agenda. There's no constraints. I can talk about politics if I want to, though I rarely do. So it can be about anything, and no particular schedule, although I'm settling into like a weekly on Saturdays, which I don't want to do. I'd rather do this during the week. There's already one of those classic, I should talk about this in the next episode of Coffee Solo. Should I write it down? Nah. That's a trap everyone falls into all the time. I have talked to comedians, professional comedians that actually get paid to say funny things. No, to say things funny. And they will, if you ask me, so do you walk around with a notebook or something? Oh, absolutely. You have an idea, it's gone in 30 seconds if you don't write it down or do something. This is just how our brains work. Our short-term memory is actually 30 seconds-ish, because if it's not important, your brain dumps it. So you have to make sure it's important. So that means write it down, the reinforcement of the mechanism of writing, or noting it on your, you have a phone or a tablet or something, jot it down on a napkin. You can say it out loud a couple of times. That might, that works for some people. That happens with me with names. When I'm introduced to someone or they introduce themselves to me, I usually say their name back to them. Hi, I'm John Smith. Oh, hi, John Smith. Good to meet you. I'm Dan Hugo. If I don't do that, I will forget their name as we are saying them. So I know that, and it's totally normal. Actually, when I learned this is how memory works. When I read about this a while ago, that was fascinating, because at some point you start to think, why am I always forgetting things? Why did I forget where I put my keys? That kind of stuff. It's quite literally, if you don't make sure it's important, your brain, especially as it's filling up with memories and dealing with the day-to-day, don't need to know that. Ditch it. So short-term memory is weird. Anyway, Coffee Solo, there it is. We can talk about anything we want. It would be interesting if I had an audience that was actually interactive to do some sort of a ask me anything sort of thing. I really need to get the reach going for a variety of reasons. Maybe I'll touch on that in the anything else section. The summary, though, of today's episode that goes along with the title: Bilt Rewards, not a completely accurate name considering how disappointing it is to have to deal with them. And the fun continues, along with a couple of other things. So, we have to use Bilt. We'll get to that in a second. The links, as usual, I really haven't made this a link show. So the links are to the Coffee Solo page, ko-fi.com, ko-fi.com/danhugo/posts. That's where episodes are first published. Then they're published in the usual places, Spotify, which then flows to Amazon, Apple, YouTube. There's no RSS feed. Is there somewhere else? I can't remember. Maybe. Yeah, I should check. I don't know. I should be more diligent about where it gets published. Maybe I would have a larger audience. I don't know. And then Coffee Solo Home is my personal homepage, danhugo.com, which is in dire need of beautification. I've been talking about this for way too long. I think since like October. And this is getting silly. Oh, I do have to renew my certificates or we'll get the invalid cert. This site is insecure, blah, blah, blah. Using Let's Encrypt for free SSL certs or TLS certs. And yeah, gotta remember to renew those. They're free. But yeah, I have the current episodes of Coffee Solo and Buy Me an Update, which I haven't even updated. Long story. So the take home, I need to refresh and actually put some effort into those sites. I'm trying to get the Smarter Smart City Hackathon up and running here in Vegas. So not hackathon, challenge. There will be hackathons during the challenge. Anyway, danhugo.com. There you go. Finally, the profile page, like everything, buymeacoffee.com/danhugo. I've had that page since March of 2021. Coming up on 5 years. I was kind of mentally mixing that with when I signed up for LinkedIn because I just mentioned that recently. That was August of 2003. So there you go. 23 years. Soon, coming up on 23 years. I don't like LinkedIn. Anyway, and then, so the profile page, like everything, you don't have to spend any money there. You don't have to buy me a coffee. It's in the name, but you can leave it there. I have links to all of my programming, YouTube channels and Spotify for creators profile pages, which have links to a bunch of, anyway, so you can go there. A little bit of biographical information, not to mention the Buy Me an Update audio program. I started doing Buy Me an Update as something to put on Buy Me a Coffee and Coffee Solo as something to put on Ko-fi.com since I've had these pages since 2021. And yeah, that's not compatible with the way podcasting works. So I figured, okay, well, I will publish them there first and then I'll move on to, I think I do 2 hours of delay so that the millions of people can rush in on the source. Okay, let's get on with this show. Bilt sucks. So, yeah, the very quick throwback to the other day, February 3rd, I paid the rent as usual. I've moved away from trying to get it on the 1st because, and this is fairly recent, up until this thing happened. So it was several months ago. Was it 4 months ago? 5 months ago? I can't remember. And this was me being lazy, I guess. I have a bank account that I can walk. It's a credit union. I can walk into the bank. So I have bank services that I can walk to. They do free cashier's checks. Is it cashiers or certified? I can't remember. They do a service so you can, if you need a check, totally free. So everything is free at this credit union. It's very nice that I can walk up to them. There's a branch, like I said, it's literally across the street. So I opened an account with them when I moved to Vegas, coming up on 13 years ago. They are not error-free. They're okay, but I use them for paying bills. That seems like a lot of work. Well, it's good if something is compromised, because over the years, I've had my share of, nothing too outlandish, but hello, I'm calling from whatever card or bank. We noticed some unusual activity. Were you traveling in Guam? That happened. And then when I was traveling for Intel, any debit cards. So these are anything with debit cards or ACH transfers, like electronic checks. I'm like, you know what? If I use an account that I'm paying my rent out of for other things, and then it gets suspended for some reason, there's a theft, fraud, compromise of some sort. Now I got to go and change everything, whatever. So I have a couple of accounts. I move money around to, for whatever bill. Oh, okay, this is this much that month, and so on. So that's why this is apt to happen now and then. So my credit union does not always behave as it should. And they tend to update things on the first of the month because they're stupid. If you do anything in the financial arena, if you're going to be updating systems, your software systems, or don't do it on the 1st. Don't even do it on the 15th. Pick a random weekend that's not those 2 dates. Those are keep out zones. So I don't know what my credit union did, but my money transfer, which is normally in by the day before the 1st, the 30th or the 31st or whatever, was delayed, and I should have checked. So this is partial owned by me. Cell phone, self goal. What is it? Is it self goal when you score on yourself? Anyway, so I initiated the Bilt rent payment, and they check immediately. They initiate the ACH transfer immediately. And so the next day I looked and I was like, wait a minute, why is there a NSF, not sufficient funds? Because by the time I looked, the money was there. So I was like, okay, what's going on? So yes, this was, I should have checked first before I initiated the payment. So that's on me. However, my interactions with Bilt were so catastrophically disappointing. It became very clear. Now, I do not conduct transactions myself on a daily basis. I'm not in the business of moving money around. I don't, but what was it? 2003, maybe? I was working at Hypercom. I was a contractor. So Hypercom at the time was a Verifone competitor. I don't even know if Hypercom's still in business, and I'm not even going to look. But if you were at a retail store and you were buying something with a credit card, the odds are you were sliding your card through a Verifone terminal. If you were doing it, Verifone is sort of the pretty company that was doing this stuff. If you were handing your card to somebody and they were taking it to the register, or they were, behind the counter, maybe at a bar or some retail outlets, they would run it through a little machine that was a little less pretty. Probably had a little receipt printer, and so that was possibly a Hypercom device. So that's the terrain of the early 21st century. So I did some coding there. So I'm familiar with not only I was involved with the PCI audit, which is that one I will look up because I've been meaning to remember what that is, like personal credit something. PCI audit. PCI compliant. PCI, payment card industry. Oh, okay. And now they call it PCI DSS. So payment card industry data security standard audit. So dealt with that a while ago, a long time ago, when I was doing payment subscription processing on the services side, but as a client to payment services. And then I worked at Hypercom, so I was doing actual transaction processing. So you're doing what is it? Auth capture settle on the wire, right? So you're sending bits of information to credit card processors like Visa and whatever. So yeah, I have that, and software engineer. So I have that level of familiarity. So when I was speaking to the support people at Bilt Rewards, and they're in the business of taking people's money and sending payments to landlords and properties and among other things. And they have a credit card now through Wells Fargo. So I'm guessing Wells Fargo handles their processing of payments in general. They did not understand the notion of, so I would ask a question like, okay, so this has happened. Will the transaction be retried? Can you just retry because the funds are there? This was a debit before credit issue, right? And I didn't even accuse them of something that, hey, okay, the money, well, I should have checked first. But, we're talking a matter of, maybe it was an hour or something. I'm not really sure exactly. But it was not like a week. It was the transaction at night on the 1st, probably. And then the money was available sometime whenever they settle ACH transactions. So probably by 6 a.m. So technically it was there probably a few hours later, 6 hours later, maybe. But in reality, the transaction was in flight. So the two transactions passed each other. And unfortunately, that's how it goes. So that happens. But the problem I had was I could not get a straight answer from the Bilt support team. And I'm using those words extremely generously. Like, can you retry the transaction? I don't think so. I don't know. I'm like, so this is the first time this has ever happened, ever. Long story short, they had no idea what to do, what to answer. Eventually, they just kept parroting what I was saying. I said, yeah, I went to my bank, and they said there was a NSF response on an ACH transfer initiation request. And so they just wrote that back to me. Oh, well, if you've already checked with your bank and there was this, that, I'm like, you're just saying what I'm saying. You're not actually answering or adding information to this conversation. It got to be stupid. There are some other problems with their website regarding current balance caching. There was some credits applied for something else, like the month later. Their website was showing me the balances or account totals or whatever prior to the credits. And I'm like, wait, we just talked about this. This was from the property. So they should have been crediting the ledger balance or whatever with Bilt. And we just talked about this and it's not there. And I'm like, no, we're seeing it. So I logged out of Bilt, logged back in, and everything was fine. So, okay, they're not requerying the current balance. So they weren't seeing the credit transactions. They were showing me the old information because I was logged in, as you might expect. You log in, you look, okay, so let me go check and see where they are on crediting my account for, it was like $100. A dime is a dime. But, so it was a simple matter and it should have happened. So, because I had already discussed, like, hey, this was an errant charge over the last 6 months or whatever. So whatever, $100 divided by, maybe it was 190, whatever it was. You were charging me this money, but that it was an error. Oh yeah, okay, yeah, you're correct. So we'll put that back. So minor thing. But I was like, wait a minute, your website doesn't handle presentation of account balances correctly. You're showing old information. They don't care. They don't care about that either. So that brings us to the current situation. The Bilt Rewards entity has this rewards credit card program. Yay, don't have that. I don't use Bilt for anything except the one thing. So because I want to make sure the money is always there, I don't want to go through the NSF thing. That costs money. That's the property. Oh, so you're gonna have to pay the $100. Like, great, lesson learned. So, and then if it happens again, I have to go and get a certified check from my credit union, but I can do that for free. And to be honest, it would be easier to do that. So Bilt, I now wait until after the 1st. Like, I can guarantee everything is where it should be, ready to go. I initiate the transaction. We're good. So in this case, January 3rd, did the transfer, did the pay. So it was February 3rd. And the reason I noted that was because I normally would go for the 2nd. I was like, oh, I should have done this yesterday, but meh. And then I noted, oh, last payment was on the 3rd of January. Okay, that's fine. I mean, not a big deal. It's late on the 5th, I think it is. Due by the 4th, late on the 5th, something like that. So everything's fine. I get the transaction visual flourish. They have little animations on their website. They have a little points to it. They add points, whatever. It's another points for whatever. Okay, great. Good. Thank you. On to other things. What I did not check was the confirmation email, which did not arrive. But I didn't notice because they did all the other stuff, right? As usual, every month, a little ta-da, you paid your rent again. Aren't you lovely? And then they have a little ribbon of, don't forget, we can report your rent payments to credit agencies to help your credit, and they're, whatever. And you get points for use in your neighborhood. And don't forget to think about a rewards card, so it's a bunch of marketing flourish that's going on. And then they have a little, like a gauge, like a speedometer dial type thing. And it shows your points. I think that's how they animate that. There is a dial. It's like, oh, you have 250 points, and you have 500, and it'll go to 50,000. Yeah. So I saw all those things. Those were the visual cues. I moved on with my evening and on to other things. So should have checked for the email. So on the 6th of February, 3 days later, normally the ACH transaction would have been completed. So I was looking at my bank balance to make sure everything was where I thought it would be. And And again, this is the account I use specifically to pay a couple of bills, like probably 4 or 5 things, 5 things probably. I could look, but I think it's 5. Rent, a couple other things. So I'm like, hey, that's not right. That's too much money. I hate when that happens. So I log into Bilt and it shows no transactions for February. And I said, that's not going to be good. And I could see that my balance due was now more. And I look, oh, okay, so late fees, that's great. So I do 10 seconds of Googling. Well, first I tried to contact support and whatever. That's what we'll get to that in a second. But I did a few seconds of Googling, not 30 seconds, not even that long. Bilt February 3rd or February, I think I just said February, transaction failure, I think I searched for. Yeah, not me, not just me. So it turns out they were upgrading. Remember, always do your system upgrades around the first of the month. That's the best time to do it if you're taking rent or other payments. So there were people with it, like, I tried paying my rent on the 3rd and then they didn't send the check. They didn't send the payment. Now that it didn't happen, there's no record. I'm like, okay, well, at least I'm not alone. That makes telling the story easier, right? Hey, this happened. Yeah. We were getting. So then, but here's the deal. When I had the payment problem the first time, I did the chat and somebody responded, after you get through the robot, the automation BS, I'd like to speak to a human. Oh, wait a moment. An agent will join or whatever the hell it says. And then somebody came on and I did this 2 days in a row because I was like, okay, so anyway, so I interacted with human beings, or at least they passed my Turing test. Who even knows anymore? It's just going to get worse. In this case, and again, this was also what people were describing out on the internets, I would initiate a chat. I would say, I want to talk to a human. Okay, you're in a queue. We'll get you in the order or when we can or whatever. We're experiencing higher than normal support chat contact volumes or whatever. And then it would take about, for me, it was like 5.5 hours. I saw some people saying 6 hours. Sure. So the chat, I just would able to leave the chat window open, or you can return, you can quit your browser and go back to it later. You can reboot your machine. So there's nothing magical about leaving that window open. So good for that. I've seen some cases where, oh, you close the window. You got to start over. That's a minor point. But anyway, so you could see the time. They would put the timestamp in very light gray, of course. Hey, can I get a record of this chat? Yeah, just copy and paste it. What a mess that is. So I can see. So like twice a day, I would try a chat just to see. And it was going from the 7th, I think, in the morning. No, overnight on the 6th, I guess. So we'll call it the 6th of February. And then it was going, so today's the 14th. So earlier today, it also happened. So it's been 1 or 2 times a day, 6-hour timeouts. I haven't actually, well, I interacted with one person Friday afternoon, but not directly. I had a chat window open. A human actually pretended to chime in. Hey, okay, if you can, okay, I guess we'll close the chat window. And so they want me to send a screenshot of my balance, I guess. Now this is tricky, excuse me. This is tricky to do in an asynchronous chat. I have an email ticket open with their whatever Zendesk. I think they use Zendesk. Okay, so I gave you the date of the payment transaction that I initiated. Then when I reinitiated it, and your records show that was when I actually paid on the 6th instead of the 3rd. I already know there's a problem because everybody on the internet's talking about it. Reddit, especially, a few people there with a long discussion. So yeah, I think I should get a credit for those late fees, and that's it. So the robot will ask for a screenshot. The person asked for a screenshot. So I responded on my ticket because chat is worthless. So I responded on the ticket on the email thread, right? Reply above this line. So I said, they added something to the ticket too. Hey, this is from the chat from today. If you could just send a screenshot. I'm like, you're literally referring to the ticket. You're adding to the ticket where I describe the dates and the amounts and all that. And you have access to that record. Why are you asking me for a screenshot? That's ridiculous. But I can't actually chat. I did initiate a chat afterwards. And again, it went on for hours and a person never joined because they're overwhelmed with people having this trouble. So if I can get them to say, yes, there was a problem, which they only implied because the chat was not, I'm having trouble understanding what the problem is. It was, they just jumped right to, if you can send a screenshot, we can get those credited. I'm like, well, I would like you to explain. I don't want to be told, get away from me, kid, you're bothering me. That's ridiculous. So I want you to acknowledge that there was a problem. And because I want to go to the property owners where I live and say, this happened, just for the record. So it wasn't me being late, it was their problem. I'm going to assume that they've experienced that already, but I'm also not going to assume that because then that would imply that there was some sort of understanding and comprehension, I should say. And I don't grant that to people anymore. So that's the story up to date. The Bilt sucks. I mean, really, it's difficult to imagine a company that is so focused in one area, rent payments and mortgage payments and whatnot. They don't do payment transactions, in a way where they know what they're doing. They certainly haven't convinced me that they know what they're doing. And it's been a while since I did this stuff, but just your basic protocols and your basic understanding of the series of events and the sequence in which they're supposed to happen. What happens if there's an error in the transaction process? What do we do to recover? How can I explain this to my customer? They don't have any of that from what I've seen directly. So I find it very troubling. And then, of course, the side note is like, oh, the future is going to be interacting with chat robots that do not care, obviously. So you will be frustrated, you'll be angry, and they won't have any emotional reaction. They'll just repeat the same thing over and over. Yeah. There's nothing on to something else now. Even worse news. So there's nothing revelatory here, but the Guthrie coverage, the Nancy Guthrie disappearance / kidnapping, abduction, who knows what else. It's getting to be a little now. Okay, you got to get the word out. So any mention is probably good. The more they can show her picture, the more they can mention that the search is still on. That's fine. So I'm not begrudging the utility of this. But I am begrudging the people who are just turning a crank on a hype machine. They're just getting views and clicks. They got the sensational thumb stuff. I literally, before I started recording this, saw a YouTube short, body found in Pima County, was wearing the same thing. And you're like, why is Thomas whatever with the short publishing what is almost certainly like 99.9% chance this is completely YouTube slopped. But I was like, let me just check other news. Yeah, zero mention. This is the sort of thing at this point, we're 14 days in. This is the sort of thing that would have been announced somewhere, right? So just kind of gross, kind of sick. But yeah, so people are doing the hype thumbnails, and they're just, everybody's repeating the same thing over and over again. And yeah. So I don't like it. I have spoken. No, I just think it's a harbinger for things to come, because I've already talked about this in other programming, my other audio programs, FFS Talk especially. Like, there's just a nonstop fire hose of monetized, and now it's AI slop, but of monetized outrage and dopamine and all this other stuff. So it's only going to get worse, and it's really frustrating. I mean, it's to the point now, and YouTube used to have a policy where you're supposed to mark, it's supposed to be obvious if you're using generated content. And I think you can actually look and see there's audio dubbing or whatever. So, okay, that's fine. But I would like to be able to say, hey, YouTube, when you're filling in recommendations, because I even pay for YouTube Premium because I do consume a lot of YouTube content, creator content. So I have a premium account. What is that, $15 a month? I literally watch YouTube more than any streaming services. So I don't have streaming. I have a promotional Apple TV thing for like $3 a month or whatever for another, I think, till April. Got the Pluribus, got the, what's the other one? Separated. Is that what it is? Separated? No, what is that? That was actually a good show. The second season had a stupid ending, but what is that called? It's Apple TV. Separated? No. What is this? What is the show? Severance. Thank you. Jeez, getting old. That wasn't short-term memory. That was just blanking. Shrinking. So there's a couple of good shows on Apple TV. So I'm like, okay, that's cool. Shrinking, by the way, surprisingly good. Surprisingly annoying now and then, but Harrison Ford is actually pretty good. Like, oh, he actually can be a human being and a good actor. So kudos to Mr. Ford for putting on a solid and a performance with integrity. So good for him. And so it's a good show. Again, a little bit annoying. But anyway, so Apple TV has been okay. It's been interesting. But yeah, there's really no reason to have streaming if you can just watch interesting content on YouTube. Because I just watch all the time because there are people talking about current events and whatnot. So I don't feel the need to have your Disney and your although I suspended my Hulu account when I've had Hulu forever, and I used to enjoy Hulu. That was like my go-to. And they've had less when they got rid of Suits, because Suits was over the top silly, right? Like the rabbit hole of improper, unethical, illegal, silly chaos. But the timing and the writing were interesting, and I was like, so I was a Suit fan. So Suits used to be on Hulu. I think it moved to Netflix, right? If it's still around, who knows? But I used to like Hulu. I used to watch a lot of Hulu programming. Then I stopped watching so much of it. But then every once in a while they would have something like, what did they have recently? It was, well, first of all, they have Justified on there. I think they still have it. That was, Timothy Olyphant, great actor. Love his stuff. Love his work. So Justified, I enjoyed. I did not watch the entire series when it was first out. So I would watch it when I could, here and there, whatever. So I'm like, yeah, one of these days I should just watch, I'll just watch it through and get to the end. And so then Hulu announces their price increase. What else was on Hulu recently? There was something. Oh, it was Alien Earth. That's at the opposite end of quality programming. So I was like, I'll just watch Justified. They're raising the prices. And I said, I'll binge watch Justified. I'll get it done and then I'll cancel. But then I did not have a chance to do that. So then the day of reckoning came when the rates were going to go up. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to suspend my account because I still want to watch the damn show. So we'll try to figure something out. But so I suspended. I think you get to suspend it for 6 months. So that came up. I get an email thing. Your Hulu account will be reactivated and you're going to, you'll be charged or whatever for the thing. And so I'm like, you know what? I can just get a new account. If I ever want to watch Justified or whatever, I'll figure something out. So I log into Hulu and I go to cancel my account. It says, would you like to renew for 6 months for $3 a month? I was like, well, that's a better deal than 14 or 15 or whatever it was. So the only thing I'm interested in paying that amount of money for is the YouTube stuff, because YouTube without ads is a night and day sort of thing. Although I will say, I guess now I don't have this sort of volume, but I think at some point you get a YouTube partner or whatever. And so you can indicate where you want ads to be inserted. So now channels just do their own ad read. So if they don't have an ad, they just do their own ad read into the show. So you're like, oh, I'm paying for no ads and I still get ads. That's awesome. What would we do without advertising? But that's YouTube is the only, and YouTube is kind of horrible, but it is so vastly used. So news, commentary, the reaction video stuff, which we'll get to in a moment. Actually, it's the next thing. So reaction videos, some comedy, some various people's opinions. One of these days, I'll be putting some stuff on there as well. All of my audio programming appears there. So it's like, YouTube is just as awful as everyone else, but it's got some utility, just like Amazon, right? Amazon, Jeff Bezos is an awful human being, doesn't deserve anything. As far as engineering, he's better than Musk, because you have to admit, in the early days of Amazon, he did some very interesting things and took some big risks and made some big swings. And he had the door, the desk that he made from a door and some filing cabinets or something. And his wife, Mackenzie, by the way, here's something to consider. When a couple is wealthy, like specifically Jeff Bezos, Mackenzie Bezos, and I can't remember what her maiden name is now. She went back to that. They were married. They got the Amazon thing up and running. She was legitimately a part of it, right? She was a part of making this thing go. So Jeff Bezos, the richest man in the world, or whatever. The moment they get divorced, Mackenzie now becomes the richest woman in the world. And you're like, wasn't she before? So yeah, just something to think about. But yeah, so they started this company, and good for them, and good for him for steering Amazon in a direction that was interesting, and then it started to become predatory and takes advantage of people, and the peeing in the bottles, and the overworked, injured people in warehouses, and the actual, I mean, yeah. But at least you can say, well, they do employ a lot of, you can rationalize your way a little bit. Elon Musk, I would never purchase anything from him. I would never use Starlink. I would never put any of my projects into orbit with his rockets. I would never purchase a Tesla. I haven't even ridden in the Loop, the underground thing here in Vegas, and I really don't want to. I don't want to be supportive of him in any way. I think he's a monstrous person, and yeah, just a bad person. But I don't even remember why we're talking about this. Oh, YouTube, yeah. So YouTube, I get some utility out of. Amazon, I get some utility out of. Tesla, I get no utility, so I don't have to worry about that. But so Disney, I don't get any utility. But the $2.99 thing, I was like, well, all right, I guess I can get a little tiny bit of utility for that money. But there's no way I'm handing Hulu with commercials, Amazon with commercials. Like, are you serious? I'll spend $15 for YouTube without commercial. Oh, I guess I'll be getting commercials anyway. So yeah, that's the nature of the world. So as you know, I watch reaction videos now and then. Sometimes more often, sometimes I'm like, all right, I've had enough reaction videos for a while. Mostly for movies I've seen a long time ago. So like when they came out. And as I've mentioned before, one of the things I find interesting is the people doing reaction videos now are close to the age that I was when the movies came out, whatever the movies were. So it's interesting to see their reactions to movies that I saw around their age. I was probably younger, but so interesting, sign of the times, all that. So, and plus I don't have to watch an entire movie. They do little clips on their YouTube version. There's a whole formula. I'm going to guess you sign up to be a movie reactor, and there's a kit they send you. Like, here's your Patreon, and here's the editing workflow, and here's a template for the, whatever. So, because they're all basically the same at this point. I'm noticing more and more, though, there's a tendency for the younger reactors. Now, I mean, at the time, if you're watching Terminator, I'm pretty sure everybody knows this one. If you're watching Terminator, you're amused and entertained, and it's good times when Arnold, the Terminator, goes into the police station asking for Sarah Connor, and then he is told to wait. She's giving a statement, blah blah blah, and he looks around, sizes up the desk area of the police station, and then he says the immortal words, "I'll be back." So that always gets a reaction, like, oh, like, oh, I've heard that. So my favorite one though is this where that's from? So that happens a lot because there's a lot of 80s movies, 90s movies. You always had to have a tagline of some sort that would become famous. So, oh, is that where this is from? And I find it funny because they don't always recognize historical references. So sometimes it's accurate. Sometimes I'll be back. That, technically that is where it became famous. I'm sure somebody said that before many times. But the lack of awareness of history, I find particularly sort of endearing, but also a little bit troubling now and then. But this is the world we live in. So people believe that, did Arnold invent the phrase, "I'll be back"? And so this many years later, it's become so commonplace that, of course, to somebody who doesn't know any better or doesn't have the impetus to examine that reality, right? Like, I wonder if anybody was saying this before Arnold said that. So I just find that interesting. But it's been like this for a while. This is nothing new. It's the equivalent, and I literally heard this. It's like saying Miss American Pie is a good Madonna song. You know, there'll be people in the room, or whatever the context is of somebody saying that. There'll be people that kind of, whatever they're doing, they'll look up like, "What? Are you insane?" Like, and then maybe somebody will pour one out for Don McLean or something. But you know that she didn't invent that. Arnold didn't come up with "I'll be back." In the context, the way he said it with the accent, sure. But yeah, so people are very quick to attribute, "Oh, is this I've heard that so many times. It's been in The Simpsons so many times, or it's been in Family Guy, or whatever. I didn't know. Oh, this is where that came from." Okay, like okay. I need to confess something. It's not something I keep a secret. It's not. I'm not ashamed. I don't really announce it so loudly though, but I will say it here. I'll say it here now. I watch Candace Owens' show on YouTube. Forgive me, listener. Candace Owens is a fine entertainer. I watch her show. I sometimes watch it live. I have a little tablet under my monitor, so I can just do whatever I'm doing, and I can have a YouTube video playing, and I watch her videos live, and sometimes I'll just let it play, and I'll go make a coffee or something. So she's a fine entertainer. So I do watch her show. I find her thought process is fascinating. Actually, to be honest, her use of timelines and her adherence to some sort of structure in capturing her Charlie Kirk conspiracy stuff is interesting. I will have to give her that. We'll use the word transparency. You could argue that, but the fact that she's sort of showing her work, in a way that is somewhat useful, is interesting. If you've ever seen what's that guy's name? I cannot remember. He's like a total fascist wacko. What's his name? He's a philosopher. He got canceled on YouTube, like big time. Like they shut down his account completely. YouTube philosopher, starts with S. No. Okay, no help there. It's not Sebastian, because of course Sebastian Maniscalco is not a philosopher, a comedian, sort of the same. He's just an awful human being, and he's shaved head or bald or something. What's his name? I'm totally spacing on his name. Anyway, if you know who he is, then you know. He used to do presentations. So if he was doing a monologue or an audio essay, he would actually include like a slide deck, and he would make bullet points. And so he'd have his little face in the corner, and he would have a presentation that he would go through. And I was like, that's pretty interesting. That's an interesting way of doing that. But he himself was a monstrous human being, probably still is. His name almost came to me, and I can totally picture him. No, not Werner Herzog. I cannot remember his name. It starts with an S. It's kind of important that I get his name, because then you can say, "Oh yeah, that guy, he is a monster." So I said out loud one time, "Oh yeah, I watch his stuff." When he would talk to other people, his true nature would come out, and he's just a horrible, awful person. And he would be on the various goober. What's that guy's name? He was on TYT. See, I don't watch this stuff anymore, so their names are not worth saving. Dave, whatever his name was, YouTuber, former TYT, Dave Rubin. Yeah, so I know Dave Rubin had him on. I think they talked at some point. So he, in that ilk. What is his name? It's yeah, I cannot remember. But I think he was on there talking about Ashkenazi Jews, and he's basically into in itself is not a bad thing, but in the context of their conversation, it just started going down this like epigenics and just, and it gets worse. I mean, his views are not good, but I found the way that he was presenting them was interesting. And it's interesting to know about these things, because if you are skilled at presenting an idea in a convincing manner, that is the beginning. If it's coming from a person with ill intent, that's the beginning of bad things happening. Hopefully you are aware enough to know that that's possibly the case right now. Look around. So I'm just going to try one more time to look. So I'm going to pause so you don't have to deal with this. And just like that, Stefan Molyneux. I knew it started with an S. Stefan Molyneux. I think I'm saying that correctly. Who cares? Yeah, so he's got a certain presentation style, and he is an educated person. So when he's making a presentation in a structured and useful way, you're like, oh, okay, interesting. So some of the stuff he would talk about was interesting, but you can, of course, be an evil person and have 10% of what you have to say be interesting. So, but even more interesting is the methodology. So same with Candace. Candace is a fine entertainer. She's got her charisma. She's got her following. When she's interacting with other people, I think she can tend to be a little bit standoffish. I mean, that's just a visual observation. You can just watch the behavior. Like if she's in control of the presence, talking into a camera, then that's one thing. But as soon as people who are interacting with other people start to become combative, or they whip out vitriol, so they go off the rails of good faith debating, for example, then you're like, oh, okay, that's not as good. So she's fine in a monologue sense, but some of her, and I don't think she interacts with other people as often anymore, maybe because of that. But I do watch her show, and I find her thought processes fascinating on their own. So it's interesting to watch that. She can mix serious topics and a dash of actual intellectual curiosity. Again, the structured presentation, the diving into some details, that she shows her work, right? Contacted this person, we looked here, we got this. Okay. Now, you can still be completely wrong. I'm not saying she is. I don't know. But you can do a deep dive on something, because, like, for example, she is a moon landing hoaxer. She thinks the moon landing did not actually occur. So she can do her due diligence, and she can present her work in a transparent way to prove the moon landing is a hoax, but that would leave out a lot of things. So the just like Stefan Molyneux, right? If you make a presentation and you do it in a convincing way, and you sound credible, and the ideas you present are plausible, but you're also a conspiracy theorist, and you're using the techniques of now, I love a good conspiracy theory because sometimes they're true. But if you're using these methods like, oh, we won't present information that is counter to the theory, right? And I think she's kind of getting in that trap a little bit. So motivated reasoning is a big one. So she's picking things, but she's making a presentation that's convincing, and her followers are already on board. So they're just confirmation bias spewing all over the place. But she's a moon landing hoaxer. So you have to wonder, she wants to present her case, but isn't necessarily interested in hearing the case presented by others. Yeah. The moon landing actually did take place. Here's all the stuff. Like, yeah, but there's no stars, right? There's a lot of the same, I don't understand physics. I don't understand optics. I'm going to listen to what other people have told me. So yeah, it's totally entertaining though. But it's important, in my opinion, to watch or consume this kind of stuff, so you can see the tools and methods in use by presenters of various oils of the snake. She probably could have gone after some more legitimately troubling world leaders than the Macrons, who are not good people. The Macrons have their issues, but like, you could go after real things with Elon Musk, or with the Viktor Orban, or Kim Jong-un, or there's a whole list of people. with legit, if you're going to go after the Macrons, go after real things. Um, the yeah, I don't know. It's hard to defend. I'm not defending Candace Owens, but to say that her presentation style and her general presentation are entertaining, and she is a presence, and she's a presence that should be observed and noted for how she does what she's doing and what's happening. Yeah, people are buying into all that though. I don't know about them. That's a different story. I've honestly totally spaced on what I said we would talk about in the anything else. The Smarter Smart City Challenge. I think that's what it was. If it wasn't, well, that's the way it is. The Smarter Smart City Challenge. So we're going to start that early signups on March 1st. So 14 days from today, 2 weeks from now. So on March 1st, we're going to invite people to sign up early. So this will absolutely blow people's mind. The confusion will reign and it will be a nightmare because the Smarter Smart City Challenge doesn't really have a start date. What? So the Smarter Smart City Challenge is going to go from March 1st until probably whenever CES starts in January of 2027. If CTA is interested in participating in like a finale presentation, sponsoring, whatever. But the reason to have this take place between March and January is so that people, if you're familiar with the hackathon, usually it's an all, stay awake for 40 hours or whatever. Starts Friday evening and Sunday evening. There's pizza and Red Bull and shenanigans, or maybe you go home, or maybe it's a virtual online event, but the ticking clock is a very short interval. But that, if you are a normal adult, maybe you have a family, maybe you have a job, maybe you don't have that sort of time. So should that prevent you from participating in what is basically a community elevation event, right? Hey, you have ideas about how to make our smart city smarter. Well, you should be able to share them and develop them and work on them with a team or whatever. Oh, but I don't have 40 contiguous hours to stay awake to do this. And they would be correct. They're like, yeah, of course, that's a dumb idea. It's like drinking games. It's like anything you do that's based on having too much free time. Like, why don't we just enjoy what we're doing? Or why don't we allow people to sleep and live their lives, but also be able to contribute to this? So that's the idea. So there is no cutoff or deadline to join, to participate, right? You just get to jump on when you want, or oh, I can't work on it this week. That's totally fine. Nobody is judging anyone throughout this whole process. This is supposed to be completely additive. We're not trying to roadblock anyone. We're not trying to prevent people. So take the time you want, take a break, whatever. To work on 2 projects if you want, whatever. There's really no specific rules about you must do this by this time or date or whatever. Now, we'll probably have hackathons, but they're, optional, obviously. That's in keeping with what I just said. But hey, if you want to participate, we'll figure something out. So we'll have opportunities for people to engage socially, to demonstrate things. I can't demo. Okay. Well, we'll make this work. We'll do online demos, perhaps, whatever it is, a demo to just talk about what you're doing. Hey, I'm not a tech person. I'm not a coder. That's totally fine. It's about the ideas. It's not about the tech. If you have an idea for a better way to mark crosswalks, if we use this kind of paint and we put this pattern on the street, it's easier to see. Okay, great. Let's try that. Yeah, but it's not developing an application in Rust and TypeScript. That's good. That's a good thing. So yeah, opening the doors to everyone on a timeline that should work for anyone, right? March to January, you got a whole summer. You got a lot of time in general. The world is a crazy place. Maybe think locally and maybe get some satisfaction out of fixing something that is within your reach. So we can see what the nature of our global innovation hub is here in Vegas. Like, are we really? So March 1st, early signups. What's that about? Well, Vegas has a real problem about getting the word out. It's impossible. You can literally look someone in the face and say, hey, can you tell 2 friends about this Smarter Smart City Challenge? And they'll be like, sure. And then, did you do it? No. But you said you were going to do it. Yes. But did you do it? No. So are you going to do it? No. Great. So LinkedIn is a travesty. The notion that people depend on LinkedIn to get the word out about anything is silly. There's 104, I think it's 104, 106, maybe it's 106 people following the Smart City Vegas page on LinkedIn. The website smart-city.vegas, see where that went, is up. It's minimal. There's a calendar for joining meetups. No one is interested in participating or being a part of the early stages. Okay, so then we have a gap to fill. How do I get people who want to participate to actually tell other people? Because follow and forget is the name of the game on LinkedIn. Oh, I followed your page. Did you like or share anything? Have you told anyone else? No, I followed your page. That's all I'm going to do. So that value equals 0 for that. So early signups, I'm going to try to get the word out. Now, we're not going to engage with minors, but minors can participate. What? What does that mean? It means I'm not going to be contacting high school students. I'm not going to be emailing young people, but we are reaching out to teachers and somewhat parents, right? If you are a parent, then great. We're not going to reach out to kids, but you can, talk to your classroom, hey, do you guys want to be a part of this? It's kind of like a science project, right? Do you want to work on something to make the city better or the community, your neighborhood, or make school better or whatever it is, right? It could be anything. And that's the other part. So it's not tech, and it could be absolutely anything. And the schedule is completely open and self-defined. So the early sign-up people will be answering some survey questions. So I've been calling it meta planning. So we've got the meta plan stuff, like what are the objectives and key results of this whole undertaking? What are some starter topics? One of the topics is whatever you want to work on. But public safety, transportation, there's a bunch. And then some elements that we can try to get sponsors for. So best use of artificial intelligence, best avoidance of artificial intelligence, best use of translation to make whatever you're working on usable by people who do not speak a particular language. Best consideration of accessibility, for example, that's a big one. So did you try to make your idea useful to everyone, or is it only people who can see, hear, etc.? So there's a whole bunch of stuff that we worked through on the meta planning stuff. So that's like the framework. The early sign up people, my hope is that they will do two important things. One, they will consider what the actual plan should be. Like, we should have hackathons, we should have 2 in the summer, or maybe 3, or maybe we should wait until December, whatever. So get actual, because they're the ones that are going to be actually following the plan. So the plan framework is the basis for beginning some outreach to sponsors and whatnot. The actual plan will be where we actually start putting things on a calendar, pencil them in. But the second thing I really need the early adopters to do is, hey, you took the time to sign up, to put your email address in or whatever. And hey, you even answered some survey questions so we could figure out what the real plans will be. We'll solidify, we'll crystallize them based on your input. Plus, there's the little added caveat. You're supposed to be working on things to make our smart city smarter. First step, are you able to work on the planning of the thing to do that? They should be able to, because it's not going to be like heavy lifting. But the number 2 thing, which is actually more important, I can't say that word correctly in the new way. Important. I think that's it. Maybe. Can you tell everyone you know and help us get the word out? You can start working on your project right now. You can work on your idea today. But we need people that are interested in doing that to tell other people. Now, someone might say, but then they're working against themselves. They're going to dilute the pool of opportunity if there are prizes. They should keep everything to themselves. Right. So that's where the reserves come in. So we'll not even talk about sponsored events or sponsored incentive programs, right? Best this, that. That won't even enter the picture until we have 150 people signed up as early adopters. So 150 people. Okay, well, that's not bad. We'll just get to 150. Right. but we will make all prizes and incentives contingent on having 1,500 participants for the main event. So we need 150 people to sign up before we even start talking about the next steps. And we need 1,500 people participating to make it worth the while of any sponsors or any participation by facilitators or venue. Hey, we want to borrow a venue, but for 10 people. Go to a coffee shop and sit at a table. So we're not going to get any press coverage. Oh, and so the early adoption stuff is also a thing that can be covered by our local media, but our local media is extremely unfriendly to anything new. They would rather, they would be more inclined to cover the ending in January. And I've had that conversation with our local media. Do you want to talk about this? No, we'll just talk about it at the end. Well, but then we can't get the word out. So no one will know about it if we don't get any news coverage at all. And they're just not interested. So that's the hill we are climbing right now. So that's the nature of that. So I think that wraps that up for the moment. So March 1st, early signups. Probably going to stop doing LinkedIn completely because it's been absolutely zero value. The value of LinkedIn pages or anything on LinkedIn is a one-shot deal. The Smarter Smart City Hackathon is a thing that exists. And you'll get followers that are like, okay. By the way, I have sent out 600, 250 in January, 250 in February, and 100 and, well, actual invites, it's been about 100. So the 106, some people are like me, I'm following the page. A couple of people I did not invite, they just found the page and they're following it. So let's call it 100. So I've invited 500 people, then 100 people responded, so you get those invites back. So let's say I've invited 600 people and we have 100 people that are actually following the page. 15%. Okay, that's wonderful. But that's just people following. And by the way, I think people are not following it because they say Smart City Vegas, that sounds like a business. I'm not really interested. I don't care or whatever. But if they read it, they would say, or if they look at just the description, like, what is this? Oh, it's a nonprofit, Innovate for Vegas Foundation, fiscal sponsor involving the community, blah, blah, blah. So if they actually took a moment to read the 200 words or 200 characters briefly, they might say, oh, okay, this is an actual nonprofit community elevation event. That's something I could get behind. But instead, 100, 104 people, 106, whatever it is. And then they never, ever engage with anything. So are they reading anything? Probably not. They certainly aren't resharing so there's no reach extension. They're not helping for visibility. So that's it. So I've had 2 outreach meetings a week for people to participate in the meta planning. No interest. So the Vegas trend of, we're a global innovation hub as long as someone else is doing it is holding true. So that's cool. And the people following the page are the superintendent of the Clark County School District. So when I posted a thing that said, hey, educators, we need you to talk to your students because we're not going to. So they're absolutely welcome to participate. But you are going to have to actually be the go-between because we're not going to engage minors. We're not going to run into trouble with COPA, Child Online Privacy Protection Act, right? So we're going to have parental involvement of some way. We're not going to have people in private chat rooms accidentally. No, none of that. So it has to be a safe environment. It has to be stirring up as little trouble as possible in that regard. So, hey, students can form teams and you can make it class activities to get more involved in what's going on. Because guess what? That's where jobs come from, is that sort of thing. Nothing, no interest. The CEO of the newly joined CEO of the Las Vegas Global Economic Alliance, following the page, like the thing, will get no participation or interest from that person. The list goes on. So following a page is considered to be, and I've talked about this in elsewhere. I liked your missing person announcement. Did you do anything to try to find the person? No, but I liked the post. Yeah, but did you tell anyone else? Well, no, I liked the post. So that's my part. So that's Vegas. This has been a problem in general. I've talked about it so many times. It's getting old, but it's never going to go away. So everything old is new again. All right. It's been an hour and 11 minutes by my clock. It'll probably be in closer to an hour once I truncate silence. Thanks for listening as always. Thanks for being there for me. Yeah, that's all I have to say. Bilt sucks. Take care now. Bye-bye.